I never drank to have fun. I drank to destroy. I drank to erase.
Jimi Hendrix said something to the effect of, I don't like compliments. I find them distracting.
Yeah.
And the idea of what you were talking about before, if I just get people to like my music, they'll love me. Now, for most people, that concept gets squashed pretty quickly because, they aren't able to pursue their music or they're not getting a response, right? Yep. What's to some degree a little bit more challenging and arguably more seductive is, well, what happens if you are getting all of that praise, right, if you are getting all of that love? And then how do you in that context say, no, this, I have to integrate this somehow into me, but I can't jump into that world where now that defines me in the same way that you're talking about, well, the ayahuasca can't define me, the ketamine can't define me, the EMDR can't define me.
The funny thing though, at least in my experience, is it's never enough. For most of my life, in my early life, nobody ever liked any of the music I was making. They always thought my band sucked, and we were always, it never. But then when it started taking off, it still was never enough. Because each little step that we would make, I'd be like, yeah, that's cool, but we're not as big as Nirvana. It's like every little thing that we did, it still was never enough. Because I was so lost in this feeling that Jim isn't good enough. I feel like we all need to give ourselves the gift that nobody can take away, and that's self-love. So I started to try and to realize that, okay, I've been spending most of my life hating being on this horse named Jim. I want to get the fuck off of it. I want to drink it off. I want to, drug it off. I want to fuck it off. Whatever it is, I want to get off this thing because I don't like it. And I had this realization. It's like, okay, you've been doing that for 40 years. That's not working for you. What if we try the other direction? What if you try to treat Jim with love and kindness and treat Jim with respect and try to go the other way? And let's try and take care of Jim. Let's try and feed Jim properly, get Jim some rest, stop drinking, stop pouring alcohol onto Jim. Like all of these little things that I could only start to see because of the EMDR therapy I was doing, the psychedelic therapies I experienced. I started to get all these little glimpses that I'm the caretaker for this lifetime, however long it may be, of this being named Jim. And if I can wake up enough, I can realize that, like, it's my sacred duty to try and love this person, because if I can do that, then I can be of greater service to the world, and I can be more kind to other people, and I can serve other people, and I can serve the world better, because I'm not so busy trying to destroy this vehicle, this body that I'm in, this lifetime. And that for me has been a huge thing, because it's like I'm starting to give myself this gift of this love that nobody can take away from me. It doesn't matter how many records we sell or don't sell, doesn't matter this or that, all these external things. I can kind of retain and hold on to my own self-love. And it's not like that's just a thing that happens and then it's over either. That's a constant battle. That's a constant up and down roller coaster of, one day I'm like not feeling so good about being Jim anymore. And then the next day I'm like, all right, man, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it with your friends or talk about it with your therapist. Because I know that everybody has that ability to do that. It's a difficult journey, but it's a journey I believe everybody can make, everybody can do.
It's interesting that you're talking about this concept of a caretaker. I really like that idea. One of the things I try to talk about with people that I work with is the only unique thing you have to offer the world is you.
Yep.
And there's got to be, to some degree, an ongoing process. Like almost every theory of psychology has something about like the self and other, like, the me and the connecting. And those things kind of go hand in hand. But that concept of being the caretaker, and what does it mean to be a caretaker, right? What does it mean to love? And this idea of like, well, each time you learn something, right, about yourself, it's sort of like, well, look, is loving oneself is like, being good to oneself is often experimenting. So you try the drinking. For a lot of people, as an example, like drinking starts off as a form of self-love because it's fun and it connects you with people and it makes you feel good. And then over time, you start seeing the effects of it. You start like being like, well, it may have started out that way, but it's kind of morphed into something different now. And can you be open and curious enough? So one of my early supervisors would always talk about being curious, not critical, about the idea that like, well, can you see that might have changed?
Yes, and I feel like the only way we can become better and better caretaker is to listen to that voice inside of us that is our true soul's voice. And I think through meditation or through therapy or through, again, kind of saying to yourself, it's okay that I have problems. It's okay that I'm depressed. And I think obviously it's just so highly specific for each person, because even when you come to drinking or something like that, it's like some people aren't alcoholics and can have a drink or two and it's fine. Other people can't, and I think for me, I'm an alcoholic. I have it in my programming, and I never drank to have fun. I drank to destroy. I drank to erase. For me, drinking was the eraser, because it's like I did not want to be Jim. I did not want to be here, but I didn't even, I couldn't kill myself. I was like, how the fuck do I get out of this thing? Bam, you drink enough, you're gone, and you hand over the keys to the tequila bottle and it drives the car. It's like so I think, yeah, that was a big one for me when I began to step back and into my soul's and kind of be the observer more and the witness. I saw myself making all these excuses about drinking and making, because I'm a very functional alcoholic, and I have a genetic disposition where I don't ever black out, and the more and more I drink, the more and more everything seems to be more and more awesome, and it's like I had this realization where I was like, oh my God, man, like, how can you ever sit around and moan and groan about not being happy or not finding your truth or whatever if you're drinking yourself to death all the time? It's not a healthy thing. I think the more time we spend letting the steam out of the bottle and talking about these things, the more we kind of will see them and be a better caretaker, because then you can kind of, because before I was so lost in the insanity of it all, I couldn't see it, and I couldn't climb out of it. And I think that's one of the things for everybody is like, we need to start to wake up so that we can begin to see these things with a clear mind, or a clear heart or whatever, where you're like, have more of so you can be a better caretaker, because you see, and you're witnessing, okay, Jim is like pouring all of this alcohol into himself to erase himself. That's not a healthy thing to do. So like, let's try and not do that.